ass conversations I've gotten into down here. And I said that, right? And there was a guy behind me who was like waiting to talk to the guy at the desk, or
Mhm.
well, woman at the desk, and he heard cockroaches and he just kind of was like, ew, and scurried out of the back real quick. So it's like, got you good, some bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, like, and roaches are pretty common in Texas. Like, I'm not even arguing with that, right? Like, it was just that I didn't enjoy being woken up by a love bug like that, and giving me kisses on the neck.
Gross.
Yeah. So, and the worst part is I didn't even know that at the time. Like, I just kind of shrugged it off, and then I got up, and then I saw shit moving. I'm like, oh fuck, I know what that was. Yeah. So anyhow, so then then the night of that dog thing, right?
Yeah.
The night before I slept great because I'm like, oh, I'm finally in a good motel or a good hotel without like cockroaches or anything like that, right? And then what the fuck happens with that dog? The doors are stuck open. In the fucking hotel runs a goddamn cockroach that night as the power was out. And I'm like, you motherfuckers. And I stomped on its head and I'm like, well, one story ends and a new one begins, huh, sport?
Oh, welcome to Ethica America, where we talk about cockroaches.
Yeah, I fucking hate Houston. So if any of y'all are from Houston, your city sucks dick. Like the biggest dong. It's just over there just schlonging around with it.
I'm glad you enjoyed your time in Houston.
They call me Beef Burrito Supreme now. Yeah, we can start whenever. But I just wanted to tell you that because it was like, okay, so one problem ends and another one begins.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, we already started. This is it.
Fuck. I'm your host, Beef Burrito Supreme.
And I'm Aaron. And yeah, last week we talked about Wyoming. We talked about
Yeah.
Wyoming and their power
Yeah.
grid and how it's not good, and lithium
Yeah.
mining batteries and how it's not super great. It's just
Mm,
as bad as oil, but
yeah.
it will save you money, just not buying gas though.
Yeah, but so will switching your car insurance. And now a moment to our sponsor. Oh, Geico isn't our sponsor, are they?
No.
But I do hear a 15-minute call could save you 15% or less.
Yeah, I think you would still save more than 15% by just switching to an electric car and just not buying gas for a year.
Yeah, well, if the grid could support it and we were actually using decent battery technology, I'd totally agree. Like, but our grid can't support shit. Like, California is always having power problems. I was down in Texas this week and they had all sorts of power problems, but that was largely caused by a tornado.
Just think about it though. On a small scale, if like only a certain percentage of people have an electric car, like power grid's fine, and you're doing you're just kind of just saving yourself money by not having to buy gas and just paying that electric bill, which is I did the math on it a while ago because I was
Mm-hmm.
looking into getting an electric car,
Yeah.
and man, it is so cheap. It's like $15 to like fill up in quotes for
Yeah.
like in a battery compared to like $40 to fill up your tank.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. Well, and the other cool thing about electric cars, right? So it's you got to take this with a grain of salt. You could technically run like Tesla makes it so that way you could run your house off of your electric car's battery, which that's really cool,
It
right?
is cool.
But like you drive to work, you drive back. Are you gonna like use the power off of your car until like 9 o'clock at night and then charge it up? It,
Yeah.
yes, you got to think about the law of conservation of energy here.
Mm-hmm.
So, like that basically states that the amount of energy that you put into something will always be above or minimal at minimum equal in a perfect world,
Right.
but you'll never hit equal because we don't live in a perfect world.
No.
But the amount of energy that you put into something, you'll never get that same amount of energy out of it.
Right.
So you can be like, oh man, I'm using my battery off my car, blah blah blah. It's reducing my costs. And maybe if you had solar panels or something like that, yeah, that'd be cool. But it doesn't really work like that. You'd actually end up spending more money because you'd have to go through the conversion to be
When
able to do it.
When I buy my Volkswagen bus and I live down by the river in a van, I'm gonna be so happy with my 2
did,
corgis, my baby, and my fiance down the river in a van.
did you say down by the river in a van?
Yeah, down by the
Oh,
river in a van.
I miss Chris Farley.
Yeah,
I
I miss
guess
when
he was a
SNL was good.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
Now they just have Keenan Thompson.
he's been there for like I forget how many years, like
I
25 seasons or something.
don't know. Keenan Thompson? No, he couldn't have been there for 25 seasons. It has to be like 5 or 10.
How many seasons has Keenan Thompson been on SNL? 20 seasons.
Seriously?
Yeah,
When the fuck did I stop watching it?
about 15 years ago.
More than that, I think. Like, okay, so like one of the worst part is like he fell off the grid in the 90s. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? But that would mean that around 2004 he was on there.
Yeah,
Two,
yeah, he's been on SNL since he fell off the grid from a Nickelodeon celebrity, probably.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, he was. He was on a show called All That, and then he was on a show called Keenan and Kel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
but
he's
that's
good. I like him on. I like his skits in SNL.
mm,
But now it's kind of like I like a Weekend Update basically.
yeah. I
And
can see that.
if I like the host, I'll watch it. But
Yeah, I
that's
miss
nothing
Andy.
about Utah.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, Andy Samberg.
I miss him.
Yeah,
He cracks me up.
yeah, he's great.
So, yeah, yeah, doing great things. Actually, he is doing great things. I love Brooklyn. I know.
Yeah, and Lonely Island's great too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love the fucking Michael Bolton things, by
Oh
the
yeah,
way. So, like, he's got a TikTok, right? Michael Bolton does, and he uses that. Like, there's this episode where, like, or I shouldn't say episode. There's this skit that he does where, like, he's talking to somebody, and they're like, "Hey, you're Michael Bolton, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then like he puts his earbuds back in and he like walks off, and then it's like, "This is the tale of Captain Jack Sparrow," singing in the background. It's
right.
like, yeah, it's kind of funny. He's doing like a lot of little tiny funny things like that, right?
I'm
I don't
glad
know,
he's embracing it.
his TikTok's definitely worth watching at times. So I haven't seen a lot lately, but I think that's because I just subscribe to a bunch of new TikTokers, so they're, you know, they like to fill up the content that you haven't seen yet.
Well, I just finished editing our our social media
Oh,
episode. So now I'm just against social media, so I can't go on TikTok.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And now I can't buy electric cars, even
yeah.
though it would
I mean,
save
you
me money.
could. Yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, there are certain areas in the grid, right?
Oh yeah, for
Like
sure.
that it'd be fine to have an electric car. It's just most of the United States, particularly like the heavier populated cities.
Yeah.
So like Houston, as an example.
I
I mean,
bet Cleveland would be okay because they got a nuclear power plant.
yeah, tell me about that. No,
Well, Cleveland has a
no,
nuclear
it's
power plant.
actually it's Perry. Perry has the nuclear power plant, but it's just east of Cleveland. But
Basically Cleveland. I mean, Ohio is
well,
only
the
4 parts. It's Columbus, Kentucky, and Cleveland. Because when you go south of Columbus, you're in Kentucky.
Well, I mean, yeah, Cincinnati is right there on the border. They actually call that route, I think it's on 71, the Tri-C route.
Yeah.
Because you hit Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus, and they all start with C.
Oh, I never got that, but
yeah,
that makes sense. But I mean,
yeah.
I just assume once I'm south of Columbus, I'm basically in Kentucky because everyone has a Kentucky accent.
No, y'all need to come down here to Kentucky where we. I don't really know what they do in Kentucky. I know they do a lot of bourbon.
They grow tobacco.
So, actually,
it's a big thing there.
Yeah, and actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if it's the same anymore. But they used to have dry counties in Kentucky.
I don't know.
I'd have to look into that. But no, the issue isn't so much the power generation side of things because we could always produce more power,
Yeah, it's true.
right?
Right.
It's more just like the wires that go to each house. They can only carry so much current, right?
Yeah.
And they're relying on the fact that like only 60% houses only run at like 60% or
Right.
80%. You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah,
As
and the
opposed, but
wires were basically installed 70 years ago, and they don't update anything. So,
no, not. I mean, they do when like a storm breaks them down, but even
oh,
then, they usually just put a splice in there. So, I mean,
and
or
that's
run
just to
new
save
line
money.
from
If only we would
pretty
pass an
much.
infrastructure bill to like increase all of our grid stuff.
Yeah, and if only we did that first before we started relying on this sort of technology. And the lithium mining, like I said, that's really not cool either. Like,
No.
I mean, with any mining process, you're going to have risks and rewards, but like I said in the last episode, most of the land that contains lithium is within like 35 miles of Indian
Yeah.
reservations or places that are inhabited by Native Americans in general. Um, so it's just not a good deal. But
It's a
it
kind of a
won't be.
selfish deal because, like, if you just kind of live in your own little world and you have an electric car, I mean, it's fine. You're saving money, and the power grid charges your car. But if you think too much about it, then it kind of gets like with anything. Basically, if you broaden your scope on how you look at everything, everything just goes to shit, and then you just feel bad about yourself, and then you have an existential crisis.
That happens.
Sometimes. But if you just like, you know, put your head in the sand and just don't care about the outside world and just live your life, go into your 9 to 5 and
Yeah.
don't pay attention to anything or don't even care how things are produced. I mean, I didn't
Well,
really know about how shipping containers worked until that boat got stuck in a that canal and everything was on halt for so long because of that boat.
yeah, because of one boat.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, but like stuff like that happens everywhere and all the time. Or like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. It's only when it happens at a delicate junction point, whether that be like a transformer station for the electric grid, or whether that mean like,
you know,
um, a very small passage in a canal system, you know,
yeah. Or like when a
once you
train
hold,
derails and you learn about train ethics and how they don't get brakes.
yeah, they don't get brakes and they don't get long enough to inspect a vehicle or a train or the carriages. It's and actually laws got. We really need to do a an episode on workers' rights
Yeah.
soon enough. But that's going to be maybe a three-parter. Like I've got a lot to say about that currently, but we're just
Yeah.
going to leave it at that
And,
right now.
and today we're just going to talk about, I don't know, right now we're just kind of rambling for the past 12 minutes, but not rambling,
Yeah,
but going from topic to topic. But, that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's. So we started in Wyoming, right?
Yeah.
So
Or actually, we started in Utah and then we went to Wyoming
yeah,
because that was
because
wrong.
we realized we were in the wrong state.
Yeah.
So we're in our car and we're going, and hopefully it's an electric car. Because like electric car technology, it actually is really good technology, and we really do need to transition to it. It's just the world isn't ready for it right now. And yeah, you need to
Well,
break some eggs in order to get to that
the
point. But
world
like,
is ready. It's just the government doesn't want to pay for it to get ready. Like with
yeah.
anything, everything. Like
Well,
recently, I just heard that some government agencies weren't using emails. They were just like faxing everything because they didn't want to because they were old and they didn't want to learn a new technology.
God, I haven't seen a fax machine since I was in nursing. Like
But like
Jesus.
that's how the government runs. It's just like everything's fine.
Well,
Eventually, I'll get my pension and retire, and then that's
Well,
it.
a lot of these old systems too, they rely on legacy systems, so systems that like they don't support the newest technologies. Like, excuse me, some government websites, particularly like local government websites,
Mhm.
right? They'll run off of like HTML4 or I've seen as low as HTML3, which I don't know how they're getting away with that, but but HTML4 as an example, right?
Yeah.
We're on HTML5 right now, right?
Okay.
And we're on CSS3, I think. Um, but like these HTML4, like our entire email, all of our email systems,
Hmm.
by the way, they all like basically when you send an email, most people don't know this, but you're actually sending a small web page to somebody to view. That web page is the markup for it is in HTML4, um, which to some degree that's kind of cool to know, right?
Yeah, it is kind of neat.
Yeah, but simultaneously, like we're on HTML5. Like the email needs to get with the program. There's nothing interactive about HTML4,
Hmm.
which for email that's probably perfectly fine. But it's like back to the government stuff. A lot of their stuff is not up to date, and they're like, "Oh, we absolutely need this system. It's critical." But they want to run it on old technology, which to some degree that is fine, right?
Hmm.
But that leads them like wide open to security vulnerabilities in a lot of instances.
Right. Or it just leads
I
to
mean,
like hiccups because if the if it's just not up to date and something happens where like they have to have a process of like I don't know 20,000 people trying to use this program because there's a pandemic happening and Florida shuts down
mhm.
because of it. I mean,
Christ, yeah, I get you, man. But like,
but
it's
it's fine.
it's literally like we're doing research and development just with like our society in general, and that's an awful fragile fucking way to live. Like,
Hmm.
think about that, man. Like, so like, I see it all the time
Yeah.
too. Yeah. I mean, certain things like the FDA has to regulate certain things,
Hmm.
right? Before they can come out to the market, which thank God for that, because otherwise, like, you're
Well, some
canned.
stuff
Yeah. I guess
like
not all stuff.
so.
They're not regulating Jilly Juice or any sort of like natural medicines.
Yeah, that's why Alex Jones's brain pills it
Oh,
doesn't say it doesn't say FDA regulated, but they can push them out because of some loose.
they're all natural.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's why.
there's one state
Yeah.
in particular, I forget which one it is. It's probably Utah because that's always on my mind. But there's one state with really loose laws for like supplements for that kind of stuff, and they can just push them out because of those loose laws and like just sell them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about all that is like, and this is an entirely different conversation, but most natural medicines they don't work. They just
Right.
don't. Now, people might argue with me about that, right? And I would ask them to look at the clinical studies, but most just don't work. They're mostly just snake oil, just in a different form. Now, there are some natural remedies. Like as an example, okay, if you have a sinus infection and you use something like a neti pot or a neti squeeze,
Mm.
that is actually a really wonderful way to get rid of a sinus infection. It works very effectively. But like things like when you say something's all natural, right?
Yeah.
If I told you that I had some all natural toilet paper made from the finest of leaves, and yes, they are poison ivy leaves, it's all natural. It doesn't have to be FDA regulated,
Mm.
but you're going to cause some harm. And I mean, that's an extreme example. It might actually have to be FDA regulated. I
I
don't know.
I did recently hear about someone that does YouTube using bamboo toilet paper. Sounds expensive.
Yeah, it does. So I remember when you could buy like vanity toilet paper, like you could buy toilet paper with like Osama bin Laden's face on it.
That's funny.
Yeah, and it said something like "eat shit" on it or something like that. I
Nice.
don't I don't even remember. So, or "take that" or
Mhm.
"bombs away," I think was another one that I saw. I don't know.
Uh,
I'll have to find an image of it for our
yeah.
social media channel, but
So
it's like I would love to see that come back in the trend,
yeah.
but uh,
But what do you want to talk about today? Or do you just want to ramble for like an hour from
no,
topic
no,
to
we're cool.
topic?
I was gonna say let's get in the car and let's drive east. So we
Oh.
headed from Utah to Wyoming,
Oh,
right?
okay, perfect.
We're just cruising along,
All right, I'm
and
in my
now we end
electric
in
car.
Nebraska.
Oh,
Yeah, well, you probably don't want to take your electric car through Wyoming.
no, I have extra batteries in my trailer that
Oh,
I'm
good.
hauling.
Just a bunch of 18650 batteries that you got daisy chained right up to the charging port.
No, I stole a charging port from Walmart, and
Oh,
I'm just
okay,
gonna
good.
hope that it works.
I hope your extension cord's long enough.
Oh crap, I forgot that. It's just in my trailer and I just have it plugged in, so we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. So we're going to
Right.
Nebraska in our electric car pulling a trailer
Yeah.
with a stolen
And
Tesla charger.
oh dear God, we gotta get out of Wyoming real quick. So there's the border, okay? And stop. All I see is corn. We're probably good because Wyoming is fucking desolate and it's the goddamn worst state to live in.
Perfect.
Hate Wyoming. I really hate Houston right now, but I have always hated Wyoming. I mean, the national parks are great, but like the rest is just a desolate wasteland. But that's looking back west. We're headed east.
Yeah,
So
we're heading towards the
so
ocean, the
yeah,
other ocean, the East Coast
yeah,
Ocean,
yeah.
the lesser of
And
the
now
oceans.
and now we're turning on the radio and let's listen to our sponsors.
Primus. Oh wait,
Oh, yeah, no, we gotta switch stations.
yeah,
I like Primus though.
I do too.
All right, Aaron. So we landed in Seward County.
Wait, where's that?
I actually didn't check that out. I think it's like middle of Nebraska, if I remember
Oh, okay,
right.
so we're in Nebraska.
It's well, if you were traveling on Interstate 80 and moving east, eventually you would hit it. Let me check and see where Seward County is, but I thought it was pretty much dead smack dab in the middle. Maps. Oh, it's near Hooker, Nebraska, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Jesus, fucking Nebraska, just a square ass. Oh well, actually, Nebraska isn't a square ass state. I'm just looking at a square ass county. So let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. All right. So we moved through Colorado.
Oh, Colorado's nice. They have a lot of tiny house villages.
Oh man. So like, oh wait, no, we wouldn't have moved through Colorado. Shit, we're gonna have to edit this because like I'm an idiot. Well, I'm not.
We just took a weird detour.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
Seward.
a motorcycle behind you.
They were super cool because they have a loud exhaust.
Yeah. Well, it's fitting because we're traveling.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point, Aaron. Yeah, yeah. So Seward County in Nebraska, because it was showing me it in Kansas. Oh, it's just before we get to Lincoln, Nebraska. And it is not necessarily in the middle of the state. It is actually on the eastern side of the state. But it's just west of Lincoln,
Mhm.
which we both know is a big hopping city.
Yeah. I didn't know
Probably,
that.
it's really probably not. I know nothing about Nebraska. All I saw was corn. Like I think I literally saw a high school team there when I was driving through there
Mhm.
that was called the Huskers. Or maybe it was just a city named Huskers.
Perfect.
Yeah, right. So anyhow, just outside of Lincoln, Nebraska lies Seward County, right?
Yeah.
Now, I know absolutely nothing about Seward County, right? But it's got roughly a population of like 18,000 people, roughly, right? So it's not, we're not talking like a huge county,
No, I think
right?
my city or my little town has like 15,000 and it's not a big town, so
No, no. Is this the point when we play that John Cougar Mellencamp song where it's I was born in a small town?
living with a lonely girl, just waiting for a train to come by and take me away. Is that the song?
That was Journey. No, that was Journey, I thought.
Oh, I thought it was Small Town Girl Living in a Lonely World.
Yeah, that's definitely Journey, and that's Don't Stop Believing. No,
Oh,
that I was born in a small town. Duh, duh. Used to live in a small town. Duh, duh. Da 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 da, small town. Whole song. Da, da, da.
is that just the song how it goes?
Yeah, it's well, I mean, they probably sing words there, but I just kind of ignore it. I've heard it so many times in my life that you'd think that the lyrics would be ingrained in my brain, but they're not. Thank God. I mean, it's a fine song, I guess, but it's just I've just heard it too much.
So we've just butchered two songs.
Yeah, and we did a great job there, sport.
Yeah, we did.
And you can find these songs on Spotify under the name Beef Burrito Supreme.
Perfect.
Yeah. So anyhow, so it's not a huge town, right? But the how do I want to put this? Like in the past 5 years, the county's like raked in about $7.5 million in forfeited cash,
Oh wow,
right? Yeah.
that's a
So I mean,
lot.
we're talking like and that money, they say it gets split 50-50 between like what is it, schools in the county and police force, right?
Uh huh.
And the police is using that money to buy things that they didn't necessarily need before, but
Like cocaine.
everybody no, like riot shields and stuff like
Oh,
that, which like I mean, yeah, they have absolutely every right to be protected by things like that, but it's one of those things that like they're like, "Oh, well, we don't have to raise taxes because we found a new way to bring in money." Right? So, this new way of bringing in money, right? If we're driving through Nebraska and woo woo, oh shit.
yeah.
Wait, are you driving or am I driving?
Um,
Shit,
I'll
I'm probably
drive.
too drunk to do this. Okay, good because I'm switch me seats then.
Okay.
So,
All right, I'm driving.
all right. So cop pulls you over. Well,
Don't
asks
shoot
you for
me.
license. Well,
Oh,
that's probably the first thing you should say, or say I have a bad case of diarrhea. That one might get you out of the ticket. So,
I probably would just say hello.
oh,
Yeah.
howdy, got any corn?
I don't.
Oh, okay. No, but cop pulls you over, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, I see something curious in your vehicle there, Aaron.
Oh.
Can I take a look at your vehicle?
Sure.
Oh, okay, good. That makes it easy. So I found like $400 in your glove box. Were you using this to buy drugs?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that you're lying to me,
Oh
and
no.
I have probable cause to take this now.
What? But it's my
So,
money.
well, I mean, you can fight it in court, but none of those cases ever win. Like, and then we'll come after you for more stuff. So you're better off just hand us the money.
But I have no
We'll we'll
priors
write you a
for
warning.
drugs. I've never been
We'll
high.
we'll, we'll I can't explain to you what we saw, but you consented to a vehicle search, Aaron.
Oh
And
jeez.
yeah, and now this is what you get. So
I don't like
yeah,
it.
no. But that's what's happening over there in Seward County right now. It's like a 24-mile stretch of interstate on, like I said, Interstate 80.
Hmm.
And the cops are pulling people over. I mean, and yeah, and it probably started off as one of these things where it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, yeah, we just got $8,000 and we stopped drugs from happening, like, drug deals from happening. Which, like, to be fair, like, it probably started off as something like that,
Hmm.
right? Where you're like, oh, okay, so we're crippling the drug industry because we're only taking money from criminals, right?
Right.
But then somebody realized that you can make a profit off of it,
Uh-oh.
and we can buy cool things with it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound
And
good.
that's no. I mean, it's called civil forfeiture,
Yeah, I don't
right?
like it.
And that's yeah, no, it's kind of a shit thing. I mean, civil forfeiture might be fine as long as there's some sort of committee or rules board behind it. But right now, these cops just have like open reign
Yep.
to like pull anybody over and do that. If you don't consent to a search, they'll bring a drug dog out. By the way,
Hmm.
and they'll say, "Oh, well, the drug dog, it scratched at the door, did whatever, right?" And yeah,
Can you train
they'll
a
just search
dog
your
to
car anyway.
just scratch at a door?
Probably, and
Oh
it wouldn't be
man.
that hard.
Probably not.
So, no, you just put peanut butter on the door or something like that, and then it like constantly wants to scratch every door because it associates it with a positive image. So,
Hmm.
it really wouldn't be that hard. You could take them to a junkyard and have a field day with it. Just wipe all the vehicles down with Lysol first, but they probably wouldn't even do that. So,
Probably
um,
not.
yeah, and I mean. To be fair, they're only really doing it with like large sums of cash, or at least that's what these articles that I was reading were saying, right? But they could literally be doing it to anybody
Yeah.
for any reason. And just because you have large amounts of cash, like maybe you're going out, like people go out that way to buy old cars all the time because like there's not a lot of snow there, so there's
Right.
no salt on the roads, so they don't rust.
Yeah.
Like, but you have that money, and now all of a sudden they're like, okay, well, you can either sign this and forfeit the money over to us, or we can keep investigating if you'd like. Like they're kind of bullying
Hmm.
like everyday citizens like you and me to
Right.
just so that way they can increase their department funding. And I'm sure there's some sort of incentive involved. The articles that I read didn't, they didn't really talk about that at all.
Hmm.
But I'm sure that like if you get, so much money in, then all the cops get a pizza party or something.
Yeah, or like a gift card to Buffalo Wild Wings for $15 for bringing in,
Yes.
I don't know, $200,000 to the department. No, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Everyone has
Who
to get
doesn't
their
love a
fair share.
Yeah, I mean, and who doesn't love a pizza party?
Right, and who doesn't like
Yeah.
just forfeiting over large sum of cash to police?
You think about it, like that's $7.5 million in like 5 years,
Yeah, it's a
right?
lot.
That's a lot of money that they're collecting. So either somebody's coming through with like $1 million in dollar bills, and they're like, "Well, I was planning on buying a Lamborghini out here, but I mean, it doesn't happen with just one driver. I
Right,
guess is what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
Like this is happening a lot to the point that there's news coverage on this
Oh,
recently.
wow.
Like, and like, yeah, and like 75% of these cases, right?
Mhm.
Like, they they don't. How do I want to put it? They happen after a driver signed a form stating that they're basically forfeiting it over. Now they can go and argue this once again,
Mhm.
right? But they don't typically win. They just kind of take the cop side for the most part. So that whole idea of checks and balances that we had going throughout the country, like to stop this sort of thing,
Right.
right? It's eh, it's not working out so hot. So, but it's
No,
just
we
kind of a loophole in Seward County's laws. So,
yeah. Yeah, there's probably no, federal law for it, so it's all based off the state, and we know how that goes with states.
yeah, some of them just take things and run with it.
Yep.
Looking at you, Ohio.
And it's
Mhm.
probably even, like, it goes deeper than just state, like, laws. It
I
probably
mean,
goes back to
local
state.
too. I
Yeah.
mean, this is county. Like,
Right.
I mean, you know,
And I know, New York had, like, a really bad, stop and frisk law going on for a while. I don't know if they've ever updated it, but I know that it was basically just a reason for them to arrest, minorities.
yeah. I mean, that sort of thing happens all the damn time. Like, and it's really discouraging because, like, I was always taught, like, A, like, not my pig, not my farm.
Right.
Stay out of what's not your business, right? But now everybody wants to be all up in everybody's business and talk to everybody about politics and all this stuff. It's like most people are so closed off. It's like what you were saying about the web of belief.
Yeah.
Um, you have a core principle
Mhm.
that it just cannot be shattered because in order to get to that core, you got to get through all these other sticky situations on the outside before you can get to the center, and you have to start dismantling them one by one before
Right.
you can really start making your way in there.
Yeah, and it's not easy to even change people's minds for their, like, smaller cores of beliefs. Like, some people might be like, "Oh yeah, police are great. You have to back the blue," or something like that, and that might be like a lesser form of their web of belief. It might be in a lesser branch, but like as you get further down into that, it's probably more like very patriotic, pro pro America and things like that. So if you're not backing the blue, then you're basically like a terrorist.
Right. Well, not all police are like that, right? Like
Right.
there are some police departments in the state that I live where like they're actually pretty chill dudes. Like there's smaller groups of like 8 of them or something like that. Like they're constantly like just making sure the area is safe, and they don't really do a whole lot of ticketing or anything like that because they're like, that's not why we got in this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That we got in this to protect lives, and there's a small village that I pass through every once in a while if I take an alternate route, right?
Hmm.
And like they have probably like just they probably have a total task force of like 8 people, right? Because like I don't even think they have a jail. I think they have to drive them to like an adjacent jail or something
Hmm.
like that. And there's this guy who every once in a while he sits on this back road, right before you get into the town. It's not a city. Probably has a population of less than 1,000 people, probably less than 400. But and like I got pulled over by him once because like this is when he first started doing it, And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I hate to write you a ticket because you were only going like 10 over.
Hmm.
It's a 35. It drops off real quick, and that's not really what I'm looking for." He's like, "But it's the principle of the matter." He's like, "A little boy got hit by a car here like a month ago,
Hmm.
and we need to make sure that we're enforcing the speed limit in this area so that that sort of thing doesn't happen again."
Right.
It's like, "So I'm sorry that I have to do this because like I said, like the speed limit shouldn't be 35 here, it should be 40, but I have to do it because we need to, we need to be able to, get this
Yeah.
make sure people are slowing down and keep our area safe."
There's a
And he was like,
yeah.
he was super chill about.
There's a spot by our town like that where it's right by a school district, so it drops down to 25 real quick, but it's basically
Yeah,
going from like a 35 40 down road that's
yeah,
25, but and a lot of people were just going 35 down the road because a little bit further up it's 35. But yeah, I
right.
mean, I'm sure there's something to happen where, because I know for like a month cops were basically just hovering on that little stretch of
That
road,
strip.
just
Yeah,
yeah, just ticking everyone. So
yeah, yeah. And so what all I'm getting at with this is that there are some police departments out there that are doing the right thing.
mhm,
You know what
for
I'm saying?
sure.
Like when he pulled me over for that, I was like, I don't really want to pay it,
Mhm.
but at the same time, he has a point. It does drop down. Well, now it goes from 55 to 45 to 35.
Okay.
So that's better.
Yeah.
So he did make some progress there. But it's like before it was like 55, you round a quarter and then boom, 35. And it's like,
Yeah, I have a road
and he
like
get
that
he,
too that's going from 50 to 35.
yeah, and you wouldn't even know it because before there weren't any signs about slowing down or anything like that. And it's like, dude was like, he was super reasonable about the entire thing. It's like, this is just a dude being a bro,
Mhm.
you know? He's just like, we have to prove to them that this needs to be lowered before we can actually do it.
Right.
And as a result, I'm sorry, but you got to be, an example has to be made out of you.
Right.
It's like, well, I didn't really care that much. And that's like one of the only times that well, I shouldn't say that, but it's one of the foremost examples of a cop kind of helping me out.
Yeah.
So, because I usually end up getting the rookie cop
Mhm.
in any city or town that I go to who's trying to make a name for himself. And God, I remember this guy once. I was picking up litter on I don't even remember where, and I just kind of threw it in a trash bag in my truck. And I'm like, whatever, I'll drop it off at work, and we'll just get rid of it because I was just sick of looking at it.
Mhm.
But anyhow, the cop pulls me over and there's beer cans and stuff in this fucking trash bag, but it's in a trash bag. Keep that in mind. That's the important part here, right?
Yeah.
It's and he's like, "Oh man, have you been drinking tonight? Because I see beer cans in that trash bag." I'm like, no, I'm happy to take a breathalyzer though. I mean, had it been another night, maybe,
Yeah.
but not that specific night. So, but he's like, "Oh well, there's just beer cans in there. If there's any liquid in there, I can take you in for open container." I'm like, "It's in a trash bag. I was gonna drop it off at work." "Well, you didn't, and now it's here." Think that would probably get contested, but I mean, I looked it up later. He's right. It's a loophole in
Right.
the wall, just like what Seward County's going through, where it's a loophole.
Mhm.
You know, and then fortunately there was he couldn't even tell because the can was crushed, by the way. So
Yeah.
I don't know how he was shining a flashlight in there trying to check for any liquid, shaking it, and I'm like, dude, come on. And he I ended up calling and complaining about him to the board of police, or I don't even remember if it's a board of police, but I submitted a complaint to somebody, and they were like, "Well, I'm sorry you went through that. He's going through some remedial training right now." And he's only been with us for 3 months. He transferred from somewhere else, and I don't
Oh man, he probably did something bad at the other place, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want to deal with it, so we're just going to transfer you."
well, I think that was kind of how it went. I mean, you could tell, he probably would have been a chill dude, but he was just used to being large and in charge and yada yada yada. So he obviously came from some place where he could get away with something, or maybe he was in a higher ranking position.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't pretend to know his life story, and I really don't care that much. But nonetheless, I mean, we all come from a different background. But my point is, not all cops are bad. Just
Right.
like not all doctors are bad. Just like not all lawyers are bad. So to generalize, but it's easier for certain occupations to get away with certain things.
It's also tough because like if you do run into a cop and they are bad, then you can get in a lot of issues. So you almost have to assume that they're not a good. You don't have to assume that they're a bad cop, but you don't have to assume that they're a good cop. You kind of have to like play it by ear almost with every interaction you have with a cop.
Right. Well, and a lot of this could be solved, by the way. A lot of the problem that people have with police in general, it could generally be solved pretty easily through just body cam and microphone footage. No matter what. You don't have your body cam on, you don't have your microphone on, right up. Right like that. It's not that complicated.
No.
It just has to be enforced.
Yeah, and that's
like
I mean, I guess that's my whole thing about with police is like there probably needs to be a reform with the police, new training, just a lot of things because they are, I don't know, I forget who that trainer is that's basically training cops to just like if you don't shoot them, they're gonna kill you. And it's very like pro-military training to basically like fear for their lives.
Well, in their defense, right? Like they do have to do that a lot, but most of that stuff, ironically, the most hazardous place for a cop to be is in the middle of a domestic dispute, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't really think about it like that, but a couple arguing where they're throwing fists at each other, like making arguments, you're already walking into a heated situation where these people can't just get away from each other. You know what I'm saying? They both live there. So it's like they're walking into that. Tensions are already high. They're higher because, like, and I feel bad for certain cops going into those situations.
I think it's
and like for putting their lives on the line.
Right. I think it's Dave Grossman.
Oh, that name sounds really familiar. Oh, God, that sounds really familiar. I know he did something else. So,
one of America's most popular police trainers teaching officers how to kill. That's the article I just found. But
cool. Yeah, like I mean, just I don't understand what's so hard about.
Yeah, Dave Grossman.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
I have to start listening to Behind the Bastards.
It's really good, actually.
Yeah, they actually did an episode on Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays. They did a full episode about him, the guy who started the Banana Wars.
Oh yeah,
yeah, like that guy is just fucked. I hate that dude. Like he's part of the reason that we are at where we are today. Like, say what you want about him, he's probably one of the most influential men of the 20th century. Like, he did a lot of just fucked up shit. Just a lot of it, man. And eventually, once again, we'll end up having to do an episode like around some of the things that he set up.
Yeah, it is David Grossman, and Behind the Bastards did do an episode of like, they titled it, Man Who Taught Our Police to Kill. Yeah, the man who teaches our cops to kill. Yep, man who teaches our cops to kill, and it's like this whole thing where they're supposed to have this mentality of like any situation they could be at risk of dying, so you have to be on alert.
I mean,
which is fair because like they could be in a situation where they could be dying, but like if it's like a small traffic violation, probably not. But if they're being called for like domestic violence abuse, then yeah, there's like I'd read a stat where it's like 30% of all domestic violence calls end in like just does not end good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Or
no, I totally got you.
I think it was 30% of all like cops that get hurt come from a domestic violence call. I think it's something like that. But don't quote me on the stats because I don't.
Numbers aren't real.
Yeah, numbers
so it's
aren't
okay.
Real. Statistics aren't real. It's just made up numbers. I hear that the stat for the percentage for the stat of all made up numbers is like 110% or something like that.
Yeah. No.
I just made that up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
that's
that's weird.
Because stats are real.
Yeah. Well, there's a negative 10% chance that you're telling the truth now.
Yeah. It's true too.
Isn't that weird how that works? Like it works in some instances, but like you can't really have negative 10% for most things that are like, I don't know.
Math's not real.
Yeah, it really isn't though.
It's just imaginary
Like, I mean,
numbers.
no, it's just what we can grasp with our tangible mind. It's
Yeah.
just a way to simplify the world, but it doesn't actually exist though. Like certain patterns can be easily identified with math. And
Right.
keep in mind, I love math. I anymore as far as simple math
Mhm.
is concerned, I always try to do it so quick that I fuck it up every time. But like I've taken up to Calc 3. Like math is you can do some really cool things with
Well,
math.
here's the thing.
Math and physics.
Here's the thing that bothers me about math. Whenever I go on a hike, I never just see a natural 4 in the environment. I can't just go look
Right.
at a 4.
Right.
I can write one
Yeah.
down, but it's just
But
pen on a
you
paper.
c-
It's not real. I'm just touching pen. I'm not touching a 4.
right.
So
Yeah, that's
it's all
true.
metaphysical.
That very true. Like and the other thing about that, right, is that like certain things they do exist in nature, like the Fibonacci sequence or pi. You can see those all over nature, right? Anything round, it's going to be associated with pi because circumference, radius, whatever.
Well, luckily our Earth isn't round or anything. It's just flat.
It no, it's a dome. It's a dome, and if you walk too far, you'll fall off, and then you'll end up at the bottom of the ocean with those billionaires. Oh shit! I said something rude.
Oh well,
Yeah.
that poor submarine.
Um. Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate, but I also heard someone say that like someone that dealt with submarines. I think they quoted him of like just don't get into profession. It's like super dangerous because you're in a tin can going into the ocean.
Agreed. But what do we know, right?
Well, we know. Well, we can definitely measure how much force can crush metal going down into that pressure.
Oh, can we?
Probably, I
Wait,
assume.
how do we do that? So PSI stands for pounds per square inch,
You
and
basically have to find a 4
I'm
while
just
hiking,
beyond.
and then you ask them how math works, and then they just tell you how to use a submarine.
No, you can get you basically the lower you go, the more water up above, the more weight of that water on top of you, sort of thing, and then you can equate that drop as they plummet,
Mhm.
right, to the amount of force being exerted on the unit. You could use a simple pressure gauge to even guarantee that you're fine, but at a certain point, yeah, metal will bend, and then once metal bends, like you're fucked. Like if you hear a don't
Yeah.
like you're going up right now. You don't care. You're doing it right now because now your hull's compromised. Now, this is me
Mhm.
who has common sense, but if I was one of like 4 billionaires, then probably not. God. All right,
Now,
Aaron.
if only cops would
Well,
just invent submarines, and that's how they pull people over.
yeah.
I think that's how they do it in
Uh,
SpongeBob.
oh, is it?
Yeah,
Lidl.
I don't think it's submarines, though. I think they're just boats
Oh,
that somehow drive under the water.
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
SpongeBob
know how
physics
that
is
goes at all.
confusing.
It really is, though, dude. Like, all right. So we got two destinations to go to. We got a friend in Massachusetts, and we got an acquaintance in Florida. But
Okay, so yeah, we were just touching on civil forfeiture because of that highway strip.
we're just driving right through. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, would you like to go to Florida first? I mean, it's gonna be if we're going to the middle of Florida, it's gonna be about 24 hours versus the middle of Massachusetts. It's gonna be roughly 28 hours. So where do you want to go
Oh
first? I mean, 'cause
man.
either way, we got to go down the coast. Is it too hot here right now? Is it like Texas heat wave hot or?
I mean, like, might as well just go to Florida because we're getting the worst state in existence out of the way first, right?
Oh, that's a good
We
point.
just lost
Yeah.
all
So
our money
that's
though, so
yeah, and that sucks because like it's roughly 1,600 miles to the center of Florida, right?
oh man. Hopefully
Yeah,
our
and
Tesla
our
charger
electric
can
well, our
last.
electric car, I just did the math at like an average of 250 miles that you can drive because our electric car sucks dick. Like,
I just assumed we had a
we're gonna have to,
351.
you know,
But maybe we're in the
yeah,
electric bus where it gets like 260.
Oh man. Well, yeah. Let's say we're in your dream bus. So,
It is my dream
so
bus.
anyhow,
I can't wait to buy a
yeah,
Volkswagen bus.
yeah,
Electric Volkswagen bus.
yeah,
At least it's bigger than my
S-
Mazda, so it's a perfect family car.
yeah. It really would be though. It's kind of spacey. I could get behind
Yeah.
that. So anyhow, we're talking roughly 7 times to charge
Hmm.
on the way there in our electric car.
Well, luckily we have that
But
external charger.
battery, yeah. So we can just cut that down to 6 because we didn't think the extension cord part through. uh,
So we're in
yeah.
our bus. Where are we going? Oh yeah, we're going to Florida. Yeah, because we
Yeah,
just
we're going to
just
Florida.
got pulled over by some unjust civil forfeiture, and yeah,
Yeah, and
I
we
hate it. When I was studying philosophy of law, we touched on civil forfeiture, we touched on stop and frisk, and just like a bunch of things that police do that are just like target minorities or ways for them to target minorities. It's just
yeah, well, I mean, it's not even just targeting minorities, right?
right.
Like a lot of laws are pretty stringent and they target low income
Yeah,
people.
it's
And
laws.
unfortunately,
Sorry,
oh, go ahead.
it's they're laws that are not there to target specific minorities or specific people, but it's laws that if you're a bad cop and you take advantage of it, then you can target them. It's just ways for
Yeah,
people to justify it, and that's what's bad. But
yeah.
we can't
Well,
control who's using those laws, but we can control how the law works.
indeed.
But we
Yeah.
can't, and we can
And
totally rewrite it. We can make it so you
yeah,
can actually do this, or that people can get their money back, or for their ways for people to, you know, be able to fight it and things like that. That's just not happening though, and it is an
yeah,
unjust law the way it is used,
right.
just like stop and
Well,
frisk
yeah.
and lots of other things.
Hmm. Well, in a lot of these laws too, it's not even just how they're used, it's just the side effect
Right.
of the law. So
Exactly.
as an example, like your turn signals out. Okay. Well, like somebody who can afford a turn signal
Mhm.
bulb, they're not going to have any problem going out getting a turn signal bulb from AutoZone. Hey, dude, change this out for me. Okay,
I
done.
got pulled over
Right?
for a
Like,
broken head tail light after it was broken for like, remember my juke was like broken for
yeah,
like,
I do
it
remember.
was
I knew that's what you were
like 2
talking
years.
about.
It was broken for like 2 years, and
Yeah.
I finally got pulled over for it, and I ended up fixing it and things like that. But like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, it
But
wasn't
you
even.
weren't stopped and
It
frisked, though.
actually wasn't the tail light. I've never been put over for the tail light. I got pulled over for a headlight.
Oh, God, I remember
Yeah, because
that.
my headlight finally went out, and it was
Yeah.
like a stupid. Well, when I went to oh my gosh, this actually goes into like the right to repair, but like, um,
Well, I mean, like we just hit the tip of Florida. We can go all the way
yeah,
up to Massachusetts and come
yeah,
back.
because I remember going to like AutoZone or some like car place that you pick up car parts. Yeah. But yeah, I went to this
Yeah.
place and they're like, "Yeah, here's your thing that you need. It's $70." And I'm like, "What the $70 for?"
Yeah.
uh,
I remember you telling me this.
But
Yeah, I think I found them on Amazon for you. Like
yeah, it was like $15.
yeah,
Yeah, and I fixed it for $15, and I found a YouTube video that showed me how to do it, and I ended up fixing it. And I also burnt my finger because uh, I turned on my lights or whatever. Maybe I did it at
uh
night,
huh,
but for whatever reason, the light was still it was turned on for X amount of time, and then when I touched it, it was hot. But yeah, god damn, I hated
yeah,
that. And I
yeah,
get pulled over for like really stupid stuff, like headlight or going 15 miles over the speed limit on the turnpike. And I got pulled over for rolling a stop sign. That one's a funny story. So I got pulled over for rolling a stop sign. And
mm-hmm.
it was weird because when the cop pulled me over, they're like, "Oh, you ran that stop sign." And I'm like, "What stop sign? I didn't run any stop sign." And I finally realized that like I might have rolled it. But when they pulled me over, they thought I was someone else. and they thought I was also doing human trafficking because they thought Amanda was younger than 18. They asked her, "Do you have your ID? And do your parents know where you are?" And then they're like, "Oh, how's your brother doing?" And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, your brother, like, I don't know, let's just say Josh." And they're like, "Yeah, how's your brother Josh?" I'm like, "No, I don't have a brother named Josh." And they're like, "Yeah, aren't you this
Right.
person?" And I'm like, "No." And they had my ID too. It was such the weirdest
What?
interaction that I've ever had with like a police officer, other than when the road was closed and I rolled down my window and asked for, and I kind of like slowed into the police stop, and they're like, and they yelled at me, shined their light into me, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing? Can't you see the road's closed?" And I'm like, "I don't know how to get home. This is how I get home. Can you give me directions?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, just turn back around and take this road, take a right, and then you'll be okay." And I'm like, "Okay,
See,
thanks."
cop being a bro.
But like, he was not being a bro at the first.
Not at
At
first,
first,
no, but once he realized, oh shit, I
yeah.
overreacted, because we've all done
Oh
that,
my
right?
god.
Like, it was just like, ah, fuck,
He's
dude.
probably
Like,
just
this kid,
like,
like, is
I mean, I understand.
this 18-year-old is probably just trying to get to his next human trafficking stop.
But no, like, yeah, I mean, I understand that, maybe he was having a hard time where he was dealing with a lot of shit, but like, come on. Like, you can't just treat every interaction like I'm just some jerk. But maybe you do. Maybe they have to treat every interaction
That's
like I'm
how
just,
the corporate world
I
works.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I don't
maybe
know
they
either,
just need
dude.
better customer service skills.
I would say that you're probably, I don't know. I don't know that the cops really care about customer service skills.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah,
Maybe
so.
I don't know. Every time I watch like Chicago Fire, I see a lot of uh, firemen going out for situations where like normally people
Mhm.
might call a police. So maybe we just have to start
Well,
calling
like,
fire stations for help.
well, the reason for that is because like the police are pretty specific, right? And like paramedics. Well,
Hmm.
well, paramedics. I mean, most firefighters are trained paramedics
Yeah.
too. But like, if you're rushing somebody to the hospital, it's an ambulance
Right.
service. You know what I mean? But like, we really only have three civic services, like ambulance, firefighter, cop. Firefighters are the catch-all.
Yeah.
Like, they get called out for kitten in a tree, or like, fire,
Right.
obviously, or
Car
like,
accidents.
yeah, exactly, right, like cars tipped over on its side,
Hmm.
like, that sort of thing. There, I got a lot of respect for firefighters, man. Like,
I like
though,
firefighters more than I like
like,
police officers, but that's just because I've never
agreed.
had a firefighter yell at me for asking for directions.
Well, and like a firefighter, like, like a building's collapsing, they're still going in there. They're like, fuck it, this
Yeah.
is what's right. And they just do
And when
it.
you have a
Like,
school
this is my
shooting
job.
and there's like 5 cops, they might not go over there. They're gonna wait for the firemen.
Right. To some degree, sometimes.
Yeah.
Jesus. The world we live in,
We just
dude.
need more firefighters
So.
with guns.
I
Fight
don't
fire
think
with
that's the
fire.
case. Wildfire.
Maybe we don't
Oh,
need that.
fuck, dude.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Well, do you know what we do need, Aaron?
a right to repair for a
No,
right to
we're still in Florida. We hit
Oh,
Tallahassee.
okay. What are we doing
Yeah,
in
but
Florida?
our car got shot up and our car caught on fire. So we do need an actual firefighter, because those lithium ion batteries, they exploded,
Oh,
and they
jeez.
say that it might take 3 days to put out the fire. And
But I just
like,
got
they
this
weren't real
bus.
happy. I
It
know,
just
but
came
like,
out and
gangsters be gangsters, Aaron. I don't make the rules, and they don't like my marshmallows. They said that they're too small because I've got all these mini marshmallows on a stick over top of the fire. Ugh.
but
But we need a new
I
car,
just got
Aaron.
this bus. All right, where's the
Well,
nearest
full coverage will
Volkswagen
cover it.
dealership? factory that I
Well,
can go get my
I
new
think
bus.
that we could probably. Well, I think we could probably get this pretty cheap if we just go to the factory.
All right, let's go to the factory.
Like,
I'll order it
well,
right
I mean,
now.
maybe not the factory,
Okay.
but like if we order direct from the
Yeah.
factory, like because you just want a new Volkswagen electric bus,
Yeah, I
right?
do. And they don't have them at car dealerships.
Oh,
The wait time is like 6 months or something. But if I
right, and we
just
can get it for 3 months, and it's like significantly cheaper
yeah.
if we just order it online. Maybe it doesn't come with some of the bells and whistles.
But like, have you been
But
to well, you don't buy cars new. So, but when I bought my
no,
when I went to my dealership to get a new car, they didn't have any new cars. The wait time was like 6 months for a new car. And I can't wait
yeah,
for a new car. My Juke was bad. And they
mm-hmm.
gave me three options: a Subaru Forester, a with like a base model, a
Best
Mazda,
me,
and
Mister.
a Kia Soul. I actually really liked the Kia Soul, but it just wasn't big enough, and it reminded me of my Nissan Cube, and I love my Nissan Cube except for in the winter. But I went with the Mazda. But I had three choices. That was it.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot there.
No,
I'll give you
but if I
that.
just ordered it from the factory, I probably would have gotten a whole lot more choices.
You would have. I mean, and the lead time might have been longer, you know. Like at least when they're dealing with the dealership, they have a middleman to give the bad news to.
Yeah.
So like, oh, 6 months. But if you're a customer and you're like, I ordered this, and then you're like, no, I'm not. No, this is taking too
hmm
long. You said it would be done today. It's not done today. Why is it not done today? Yada yada
Right.
yada. Right. Then yeah.
But we're in Florida. We need a new
But
bus.
yeah, 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 and well, as far as electric cars go, we can still order direct from factory. It'll be here in 2 weeks,
Oh, nice.
but we could always like look to order direct from factory for gasoline engines too. Like this whole stopping every 250 miles thing is getting a little
Oh, yeah.
old.
You don't like that? I don't mind it. It gives you a chance to stretch those legs. But okay,
I've been stretching my legs while drinking the beers in the back seat
let's get
there, and
our
like the Volkswagen bus is very spacey.
let's get our I don't know, a
Subaru.
Nissan Titan.
I don't. That's a truck,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know
Oh
much
no,
about
let's get a
modern brands of trucks.
Jeep Gladiator.
Okay. But just so long as like we can cut out the middleman,
Yeah,
because like I hate
yeah,
dealing with used car
yeah.
salesmen or even new car salesmen. But wait, we can.
hmm Oh, why not?
Well, they just passed the law in Florida,
What law?
so we're gonna have to go with the electric bus.
Oh, oh yeah,
Yeah, that fucking thing again.
that law where you're not allowed to buy direct from factories because it cuts out the middleman, so you have to buy from a dealership.
Yeah, yeah. Brought to you by Ron DeSantis, paid for in part by. I didn't even know that there was a lobby group for like car dealerships. By the way, until I read this, I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
There's a lobby group for
they're
everything.
basically just like gangsters, but on. Yeah, I know, but it's like that seems super specific.
Yep.
But I mean, there are enough car dealerships out there. Like, I mean, most people don't know how to repair cars, so I guess that makes sense.
Right.
But yeah, so like uh, and do you know their logic behind this law, by the way?
No.
So their logic is that the factories will cut them a deal that's too cheap that dealerships won't be able to compete,
Mm.
right? And then they'll close down all the dealerships and then they'll just raise the rates on their cars because they can charge whatever they want now that the dealerships are out of the way.
That's a slippery slope.
Isn't it just? Like, it's like, what the fuck are you guys thinking? So, like, okay, so you're all for the free market in the first place, and you're like, whoa, these guys are too free with their market. Like, you know what I'm
We
saying?
don't have a free market. We have fixed pricing.
Right. And it's because they're just suckering you in right now, but eventually, like, we're just too much. They're going to charge too much eventually, even though they're going to keep their costs low.
Yeah.
But as soon as they charge too much, it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, buying cars doesn't really make any sense. Remember when you were like in high school, you're like, man, I was going to buy a cheap, Ford Focus for like $10,000.
That's a cheap Ford Focus to you?
I don't know what a cheap car is, but like a cheap new car, you could just like go to a dealership, get a new car for like, I don't know, some cheap price, but like they don't have cheap cars anymore, and you can't really shop around because
Yeah.
they're all like basically the same price for like the
Right.
same model. It's negligible whether it's unless you find a base model, but like every base model is going to be about the same price. Every like next up
Yeah.
up, whether it's a Ford, Chevy, things like that. I mean, like they're
hmm
basically all the same price, given maybe 1 to 2K. But when you're borrowing, $20,000 from a bank for a 7-year loan, because that's what you do apparently nowadays. But
Yeah. But the weird thing about this law,
mhm,
right? The weirdest thing about it for electric vehicles,
yeah,
they can still sell
that makes
direct.
no sense.
Yeah. I don't quite get that because, like, and I can tell you why, or at least I have a theory
All right.
why. There's one very rich electric car CEO.
Volkswagen.
Got it, maybe.
I
No.
don't know. Oh,
Who's very right wing.
I thought he was centrist.
Um, that's what he says.
That just
But
means,
like if you listen to the dude talk, like
yeah, centrist nowadays just means you're
right
anti
wing.
Democrats.
Well, both sides suck.
Yeah,
So like it's like even the side that you pick, like it's like that Rush
mhm,
song. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a
right.
choice.
I mean, I guess when you get down to it, both sides are bad, and there's some people that are good on both sides that are trying to help progress America into something that makes people proud to be an American.
I mean, at least I know I'm. No, I don't know I'm free
Yeah. Hashtag
because I charge money. I charge money for my labor.
I charge
So
money for my labor, I guess. I don't know. Capitalism is just slavery with extra steps, but
it's just slavery with extra steps. That's like a Rick and Morty quote.
it is actually because they were talking
Yeah, I
about
know it is.
that stupid car
Yeah,
battery, and they're like, "This is
yeah,
just slavery
yeah.
with extra steps," and I'm like,
No, it's not. It's
that reminded me of capitalism because they're just like, "What's the minimum we can pay people before they get upset?" All right, that's what we'll do, and that's basically
yeah.
like how cost to hire anyone has been for the past 120 years when they got rid
But
of
we need
slavery.
more money. No.
It's just been like, all right, what's the minimum we could pay people before they get upset? And we'll just slightly increase that, but we'll still make billions of dollars a year.
Yeah. No.
Whatever.
Agreed.
It's fine.
But fortunately,
It reminds.
3 weeks have passed at this point, and we got our new electric bus directly from the
Oh,
factory.
good. So screw
Yeah.
you, Ron DeSantis. That's probably getting a bunch of money from Tesla.
Yeah, you know he is. Like with this deal, like they said that they donated like I think it was like over $2 million to his
Oh my
campaign
God.
fund, the lobbyist group or something like that. And it's like
I don't know how
this
lobbying
dude
is
just
ethical and justified.
it,
I know it's not ethical.
it's not
I know it's
not.
definitely justified and it's definitely legal, but I don't understand how the things that go on
It's just
is just crazy. Like even with Clarence
lobbyists
Thomas,
are just the mafia with extra
it
steps.
is basically, yeah. And there's lobbyists for everything. Did you watch some like Senate hearing where a lobbyist came in, but he was trying not to because he was trying not to say that he was a lobbyist lobbying for like some oil company, and they did some research
Mhm.
on him, and they're like, "Wait, you're a lobbyist? What are you doing? This is biased."
They couldn't afford to pay anybody.
It was I think some oil company for Alaska, but I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just remembering some loose facts from probably some Reddit video I watched, but I hate lobbyists.
That's
It's definitely something
ditto.
that there are a couple of things I do not like about our system. One of them is
Yeah.
lobbyists. It just ruins everything. When you put
Mhm.
money into any kind of system, because like in theory, our free market system would be great, but unfortunately, we have too much money in politics with lobbyists, and the stock market and everything else, where it's just
Mm-hmm.
no longer a free market. It's basically fixed pricing with extra steps to make it not fixed
Yeah.
pricing, because by definition it's
Yeah.
illegal. But if you just rewrite it a little bit so it doesn't say fixed pricing, just like pyramid schemes, where pyramid schemes are illegal, but if you just write it in the correct way, it's not a pyramid scheme and it's legal.
Yeah, that's just called being an employee, by the way.
Yeah, when you think about it, I mean, what
I know it
every
is.
employee in a capitalistic environment is basically a pyramid scheme, but with extra
Well,
steps.
and my big thing about all this is that like certain things shouldn't be about money. Like the environment should not be about money,
Right. Mm-mm.
right? Because eventually what's going to happen is the world's going to like have no atmosphere,
Right. Eventually.
or at least no breathable atmosphere, so to
Mhm.
speak. And it's like at that point it's too late.
I mean, I've always kind of just wished that like a huge solar flare would go by and just wipe out all of our satellites, and we just go back to basically like 1850.
Oh, there's also construction on our way down to Florida. I see the little yellow man there now.
Oh man.
He's on my Google Maps.
Man.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like we do kind of need a reset to some degree, and we need to get back to like, I mean, not that we ever were,
Mhm.
but like we need to get back to humans just being bros,
Right?
Instead of like, it's not that hard to be chill.
Reminds me of a
It's
song
really not.
called Yellow Submarine.
Have you ever heard the
It's
song
by the
Yellow
Beatles.
Submarine? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where you're just chilling in the yellow submarine with all your buddies.
No, it's more like a yellow Volkswagen bus.
Yeah, basically. Because we don't want to be in a submarine. We learned that submarines are bad.
No, yeah, we learned that like going the Titanic in a submarine. I'm sorry, submersible vehicle. I'll have you know.
Okay.
I was corrected by somebody in the Navy for saying submarine, and they're like submersible vehicle, and that person might be my wife.
Sounds like semantics.
So I couldn't.
Well, submarine is just easier to say.
She's been on a submarine before, so she's like, no, that this thing was like a tin can waiting to be crushed. Like submarines aren't way better, but they're better. Where were we at?
We were talking about
Card stuff 2.5.
Oh man.
You put a D in there.
Yeah, I did. That's fine. What were we talking? We were talking
I'll
about
show you the D is what you just told me.
We're talking about lobbyists and how they're great and how they're ruining everything.
They really are, though, man. Like, it's like, well, and I think this is probably a good point to like just get back to on track, right?
Mhm.
Like, so Immanuel Kant, he has a quote. Okay, he has a quote specifically on humanity. Now, do you know what quote I'm talking about specifically?
Mm-mm.
Well, he's got one big one. We're not rich by what we possess, but by what we can do without. Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always at the same time as an end.
Mm-hmm.
And like that takes a lot to unpack, but basically it's like if you just remember the phrase keep in mind humanity, whether it be to yourself or others, then you get the general idea.
Yeah. And he also believed in like a universal ethics where there are some things that are just universally unethical. And
yeah. And I think he would agree that lobbying, like, probably on that list. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, most philosophers were not millionaires.
No. Most of them died poor.
Yeah.
Rene Descartes, I think he was a tutor for like ever.
Yeah.
Like he's a brilliant mathematician, right? Ended up being a tutor for some princess or duchess or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think
had a bunch of health issues. During that and ended up dying like during all that. Like, it's crazy.
And
like,
one philosopher just like drank poison. because he pissed off some rich guy.
Yeah. And then people wonder why. Well, I think this eat the rich mentality has gone too far. And it's like through history, this has happened over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And a lot of rich people live in Florida, but we got a new bus. So let's move on north.
Yeah. Where are we going?
We got to go to Massachusetts. I got to take a leak, and like that's on the way.
Oh, good. Wasn't there some bell there in Massachusetts?
A bell?
Like a Liberty Bell? Or is that somewhere else?
I thought that was in Philadelphia.
Oh man. I don't know what's in Massachusetts then. What good landmark is there?
Boston.
Boston.
Oh,
Boston.
We got ships. Yeah, there was a tea party here, but all the guests left.
I wonder
they threw all the tea in the ocean. Now the ocean's tea, but you can drink it. It's like iced tea in the wintertime.
Oh, good.
I wonder if they charge. I'm doing.
I don't know either. Really I wonder if they charge tax for their tea in Boston.
They used to.
And then they got mad and threw it all over.
Yeah, and then some others got real mad, and now there's no more tea.
I bet if they go to Starbucks and they order a matcha tea latte, they're going to be charged tax for it.
I have no idea. Wouldn't that be ironic, though?
Yeah, that would be funny. Yeah, I bet they would. I bet Starbucks charges tax for
we got to go to Boston to find this out.
Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, the brand new bus that we just bought broke down. I contacted the manufacturer for it, but they're not offering much in the way of support. They said that's probably under warranty, and I said, "You fucking think?" And they just hung up the phone. So, like, we're on our own with the situation, but fortunately, I might be able to find some wiring schematics and figure this out.
All right. Well, luckily, if you call Volkswagen, maybe their customer service chat team can help you out, but you have to wait for them to get in contact with you.
Yeah.
And it could take 30 minutes, but they might be able to email you some schematic.
Yeah, they might be able to. And in Massachusetts, that's largely why most states have things like technical information and schematics.
Mm-hmm.
I know we just did a corny little segue into that.
Yeah.
But I like our little bus routine, though, where we're just traveling for no reason. Like, and like, we're just trying to get to New York so that way I can piss on the Statue of Liberty. So,
and we just happen to be going to all the places that suck.
Yeah. Actually, I do hate Massachusetts. The way that they spell cities and towns in Massachusetts, it's fucking dumb. So Worcester is spelled Worcester.
Well, that doesn't make any sense because the Worcester we have is Wooster.
Yeah. Well, and people are like, don't even get me started on this. But anyhow, they spell cities and towns fucking dumb.
And Massachusetts also thinks that too. Probably.
I mean, anybody with common sense would. It's like, just rename it. Like,
I mean, that's where they came up with bologna and kernel spelling is in Massachusetts.
Are you serious?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I was like, no, that would make total sense.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Fucking Massachusetts. So anyhow, Massachusetts, right?
Yeah.
They're like one of the states for the longest time, right? It's went to, I think, their Supreme Court before, but they have something known as a right to repair bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which allows you technical information that has to be made public to be able to, like, work on your vehicle. And this is really more important for shops, right?
Right.
Now, like, shops, they obviously want to be able to work on your vehicle, right? But typically, like, their diagnostic tools, they use a protocol called OBD2, which stands for On-Board Diagnostics 2. Now, why is it OBD2? Because OBD1 sucked. You were out there with, like, a multimeter measuring pulses. Like, it's like, did the voltage spike? And it was just fucking annoying. I had a truck that was like that once, and like I thought it was cool at first, but I'm like, man, like after a while trying to figure out what's going on with this thing would have been way easier if I could just plug it in and it would just work. You know
I mean,
what I'm
that's
saying?
how the computer system works, right? You just plug it into that computer outlet and it just reads
Yeah,
everything
but
and all those
well,
codes.
well, and the other thing about OBD1, right, was that like it wasn't very good. So they're like, oh, it's a great diagnostic system, blah blah blah. But it's like most mechanics, like I mean, they would read the code, right?
Mhm.
But they'd be like, oh, okay, so it's saying that you're running to. We'll just say that like you got no spark on cylinder 2. Okay, this happens all the time. There's a ground wire back there that comes loose in the very bottom that you just have to like tighten up
Mhm.
or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it was. I'm giving a bad example, but that's kind of how it worked. It was just a really bad system and it was really slow. But Massachusetts, though, has always kind of like been like the only reason that auto manufacturers provide that information for all 50 states is because of laws in Massachusetts. But recently, the Department of Transportation has told automakers, yeah, just like ignore what Massachusetts is doing. Like, what they have in Massachusetts is known as the right to repair, which
Mhm.
we kind of touched on earlier.
Yeah.
But now they're like, just ignore what Massachusetts is doing. Like, you, you just provide whatever information you want to, and we'll just call it good.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Well, what this is going to do is like, you know how you go to AutoZone to get a code read, or maybe you have your own personal scan tool
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Right.
You it allows auto manufacturers like they've all just stuck to that protocol because like why not
Yeah.
basically
I
like
mean,
it's
who
like
isn't
well
it just
people need to
easier?
read it, it's OBD2 protocol, like but they can add on additional manufacturer stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see in OBD2, right? A lot of that stuff is because of this Massachusetts law, which is just fucking crazy that one state, only one state, is like, you know, we like the idea that our guys they can work on their own vehicles, and in order to do that, like they need this information. They need wiring schematics. They need this, that. Like, you see my point? Like,
Right. Yeah.
and that seems like things like because you could make a wiring schematic, by the way, if you just had the vehicle there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a time consuming process. And it's just leading into dangerous areas with that. Because like first it starts with like you don't get any technical information, and the next thing you know, you can't buy spark plugs for your car.
Oh, geez, that's a slippery slope.
Well, that's what we were just talking about how these laws tend to lead to that sort of thing.
They do.
But fortunately, like I was able to get the schematic
For
for
now.
the for now.
For now.
But the federal government's basically telling us it's not important. But I don't remember which side it is, but one of them really doesn't want us to work on our own vehicles, which seems kind of dumb.
Which side would it be? What are you going to guess?
I would guess the left.
I would guess. You know, I would guess the left too. But also, part of me would think the right would do it just because it would make people have to spend more money for capitalism.
Yeah.
So now I'm no,
Uh,
I don't know. Both parties seem like they would do that.
yeah. But like, I don't know, man. Like, I learned how to work on cars from my dad, who learned how to work on them from his dad, who learned how to work on them from his dad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that was like pretty much the dawn of like the mechanic era. So you're talking like roughly like 1920s to 30s, right?
Right.
Um, Now that said, my dad took me to go see the Rolling Stones, just like his dad took him to go see the Rolling Stones, just like his father before him took him to see the Rolling Stones.
It's a lot of Rolling Stones. Who are you going to take to
Eh,
see Rolling Stones?
no one. Mick Jagger should be dead by now.
He's still
No,
going, I
it's
think.
yeah, I know. That's some old comedian's joke. I can't remember. He was on the show Yes Dear, and he made that joke, and I was like, it's actually a really good joke because Mick Jagger is forever fucking old, and he just keeps doing shit. I would like him to stop.
Does not look good either.
I know he looks like a raggedy old skeleton with dyed black hand. Does he got the moves like Mick Jagger?
Maybe. So we have the right to repair because of Massachusetts, and they're trying to take it away, or have they already taken it away?
I need a Gran Torino now because your Volkswagen bus is giving me a headache because I can't find technical information. No, but like, so back to the right to repair, like you were saying, right?
Mhm.
Subaru and Kia dealership. So okay. So the big thing about this is that like, with this right to repair bill, like the federal government is saying that, oh well, this technical information, it makes it easier to steal cars. Do you know how easy
Oh,
it was to steal a car in the 70s?
super easy.
I mean, like literally, you could probably just do it with the right screwdriver. You
Yeah.
just stick a flat blade in there, and then you probably need a wrench, but you just turn it. And as long as those keys, or as long as the tumblers like break, you're fine. You can start it, no issue. Hot wiring a car, super easy as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've hot wired a few cars. Like I hot wired a fucking Dodge Neon. So
Wow,
like
look
I
at
mean
you.
that yeah, I know. But I hot wired it because it was my car and I
Oh.
lost the keys. So like it wasn't that complicated, but I called off work and I was like, fuck, I need the schematic. And then I realized what relay activated it, and I just put a flip switch in it instead of like allowing the key to do that. I snipped some wires, boom, done. Really wasn't that complicated, right?
Mhm.
So for years this has been a thing, but they're like, oh well, this technical information. And what it is it's in wake of, do you remember, I can't remember if it was Kias or Hyundais, right?
Mhm.
But there was a TikTok video that was showing how to steal them. So people all over the country were stealing them.
Perfect.
Yeah, that has very little to do with the technical information involved and more the fact that somebody on social media showed everybody how. Like somebody figures out a shortcut like that, and maybe they figured it out from technical information, but
Mhm.
probably they just work on cars a lot and realize that Kias and Hyundais are really just giant hunks of shit. So it wasn't
I
that
like Kia
complicated.
Souls.
I don't know. Like they're okay. They all
Yeah.
a lot of people I know who own them, they love them, but I don't like them
Mhm.
personally. But like because of that, the federal government's all after them right now, right? Which I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised because Pete Buttigieg is the one who's like in charge of the Department of Transportation, right?
Mhm.
And under him in the charge of the Department of Transportation, we've had more train wrecks this year than any other year previously. And in addition to that, like, we have this thing where he's like, oh, car dealerships. Oh, or not, I'm sorry, not car dealerships. Cars. Yeah, it's super easy to steal Kias and
Mhm.
Hyundais, and if we take away that technical information, we don't even allow it to be accessed by shops. Only dealer level gets to know that, but we're gonna get them good. Like nobody's gonna be able to steal a car now. Doesn't make any sense because still there's going to be a dealership and still they're going to hire a mechanic, right? That mechanic's then going to end up like it's just going to make diagnosing a car repair that much more expensive.
Right.
Like you take it away from the consumer, that's one thing, especially with these electric vehicles, because you do have to be careful. Like that's high voltage there.
Mhm.
18650 batteries are nothing to fuck with, and they're all just daisy chained in there, right? It's lithium ion. You put the wrong arc in the wrong place, you're gonna cause a fire, right?
And that's
Basic
fine.
suspension components, I get that.
You
But
have
dealership,
you have that right to make a fire for your car.
I mean, you bought the damn thing. You got a flat tire and you gotta call a fucking mechanic. That's dumb. That's fucking dumb. Fix the goddamn tire yourself like a man, drink a beer, and go about your day. Ugh. But then again, I'm just a redneck from the backwoods. And I
It's true.
certainly don't know any prolific words like floxinoxynylapilification or volition or, carburetor.
Mhm.
That's a good 4-syllable redneck word.
Carburetor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually we just say things like mountains and guns and beer.
Wow, companies that contribute to lobbying efforts against right to repair are cumulatively worth 10.7 trillion. They include
Yeah.
Tesla, Johnson & Johnson, AT&T, Lilly Inc., T-Mobile, Caterpillar, John Deere, General Electric, Philips, eBay, plus the big five. I don't know what this big five is, but
Big five
yeah.
car
So
dealerships
I
or
believe
car manufacturers rather, like
yeah,
GM, Ford,
Apple, Microsoft, Amazon,
Fiat.
Google. So yeah,
Well, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Basically, you have a group of people who like they're supposed to be in direct competition with each other, but they realized it was easier to be allies.
yeah, and we went over allying
Yeah,
for a common good when you're trying to
yeah,
make money from our first episode, and we just talked about
yeah,
how lobbying's awful.
yeah,
And basically, from what I understand, is there are some lobbyists that are probably paying some people in the Senate, either on the right and left, to try and lobby for getting rid of the right
yeah,
to repair. I
yeah.
don't see
Well,
anything
I mean,
specific to
and
each side.
no, I mean that's the general trend that you notice when you look into the data, right? So both sides want to try to divide you to get your vote, only when it's relevant for elections, but they want to try to divide you and keep you polarized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm certainly not some anarchist that's suggesting no government, right? I'm not. I'm just saying that we need to hold our elected officials accountable for their shit, right?
Yeah.
And this is a big instance of that because we just talked about the right,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right.
Right.
So we just talked about the right, and how Ron DeSantis, a presidential candidate right now, took on a bunch of money from these lobbyists, and it's like, fuck it. Well, I'll keep the car dealerships out, except for Elon. He's a good guy, right? And then you look at the left, and then what's left? A bunch of fucking lobbyists over here who are like, I don't know how I feel about people working on their cars because, like, our service centers are really where we make the money off of. Like,
Yeah, you pay so much to try and get like quotes to get your car fixed.
yeah, I don't doubt that. Like, I've
Like,
never had to deal with that because I've always just fixed my own shit. Just like when my furnace breaks, I fix that. Just like
well,
when,
until you're like, oh, you have a leak in your oil pan, and that requires a specialty tool, you have to go straight to the dealership to get it fixed.
well, that's the thing that I'm worried about. Is it's like, man, like I've been self sufficient my entire life, right?
And
Like,
that's why you gotta buy cars from the '90s, where you can hot wire with a screwdriver in a dream.
fuck, dude. Like, the solution isn't that. The solution is like GPS tracking. Like, I mean, and they'll figure out a way to disable that, but the solution is like just extra security. Like, if you can
Yeah.
put, so most people think that the key portion is what starts your car, right? And it certainly is part of that. But inside of most cars, inside of the key anymore is a
Yeah.
microchip.
Mm-hmm.
And that microchip is usually like 256-bit encrypted or something like that, right? I don't
Right.
know how many bits, but that's not hackable
It runs
because
off
anymore
Bitcoin.
it doesn't run off of Bitcoin, but that's not really hackable. Now there are workarounds for anything, sure, but for the most part, that's not hackable.
I
Like
also
you'll end up having to replace a car ECU, but before you know. I mean, the right to repair certainly isn't for everybody, but it does affect everybody, though.
it does, and it also gives you at least the freedom to work on your own vehicle, and that's what's
Right.
important, honestly.
And
Because
that's,
like,
yeah, it gives you that sort of autonomy to make your own decisions about what
yeah,
you're doing.
I mean, like, I normally wouldn't work on my car, but like, I can
Somebody
find YouTube
charges you,
videos.
like, yeah, somebody charges you how much for a headlight?
It's
80
$70,
bucks?
and then
Yeah.
probably like, I don't know, it's $110 an hour basically, plus
Yeah.
parts and services, and the parts, they all buy them from Napa anyways, and then they upcharge
Yeah.
it, so I can go get my own part from Napa.
Yeah.
And my dad will actually fix all my stuff too because he's a mechanic, but he's always like, you need to learn how to do this yourself, and I'm like, well, if I really need to, I'll pay someone to do it.
Yeah. For
But
now, yeah. For now, when it gets too expensive, like you're just
yeah,
like, oh, it's too expensive, and I'm like, fucking do it in an hour. It'll
yeah.
be fine. It's just like the tree limb that certainly
Oh
didn't
my
fall in your
god.
neighbor's garage.
fucking hate that. I hate trees.
Me too.
I hate trees.
Yeah.
And that
Maybe
neighbor.
our next step. Yeah, well, I didn't particularly understand his concern, but either way, maybe our next episode will be on how ethical are trees.
And he had his own. He has his right to cut down anything in that tree over his property.
Right. Legally, that is his problem.
Yep. It's fine. I'm not bitter about that at all.
We cut it down.
Yeah. Well, then I had another tree limb fall down on it, and that one actually hit. Wait, no, it didn't actually hit his stuff. It was like broken.
Yeah.
And I had to actually get that tree cut down.
Yeah, that's what
it
you
was
had said
dying
at one point.
But
yeah.
Oh my god.
Now, believe it or not, I didn't know how to really cut down a tree at that point. Now I know how.
Yeah.
So if that situation happens again, like we'll make you a little notch, we'll figure out the angle, and boom. Done.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I just
it's
found
actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just you make a notch, and then you basically cut out a wedge and you put it in the back. It's kind of cool. I'll show you a TikTok or YouTube video on it sometime. Yeah, but you don't have trees to worry about right now, so it's probably irrelevant. But that's how we should have done it, because we could have done that and it could have been safe.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah. We didn't have TikTok at the time though.
No. Yeah. But we do have YouTube to find those YouTube videos on how to fix your car. I've used it for windshield wipers and headlights and taillights and basically like anything little in the car. Like you can just find a YouTube video. But if it's anything,
well, and in most instances, I don't think that'll change.
Yeah.
Right. I think that the auto parts stores also have their own lobbyists, and they make most of their money off the little shit. Like, let's be real. Like, you go in to buy an alternator, but like you come out with like a bottle of Valvoline or to top off your engine because you're already there, or maybe a bottle of Armor All to like wipe down your engine and stuff with, or maybe you just like dice on your door locks
or
hanging from your
$70
rearview mirror.
headlight. That's actually $15.
Yeah, you probably don't like that ever.
But people are like, oh, okay, it's $70. Sure, I'll pay for that.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a certain clientele, though. Not everybody has that sort of money. And that's why the right to repair is important. It's just like in getting pulled over for that broken-ass taillight. It's like, now we have the utility to be able to fix this. But that might not be around forever. And we can save money doing this. But saving money is not at all a capitalistic idea.
It's not.
I mean, it should all just trickle down to us, according to Reagan.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm waiting to see it.
I have not seen it yet.
Yeah,
I barely see raises. Yeah. I mean, the raises we get don't even account for like inflation. I'm pretty sure I made more money 5 years ago than I do now, based off the dollar price.
See, I've just learned to like yell at people to get what I want. So if I want a raise, I'll talk to my boss. But most of the time, I try to be fair about it because I can be quite convincing and I can be quite. I wouldn't classify myself as a prolific speaker necessarily, but does like, I will like argue with somebody and say that's a bunch of shit. Like, did you take into account like anything beyond what maybe the Bureau of Labor Statistics told you about wages, like, offers that I experience on the market or anything like that? Like I could take that job. I like being here. I'm comfortable being here. So like match it. Like help me help you.
Yeah. My favorite thing is like, according to the state of Ohio, you're entitled to this. But I'm like, well, that is the bare minimum. You as a company in the free market can do what you want.
Right. But get dressed up in that Mickey D's uniform, motherfucker.
If you want to offer FMLA for people that have been there for less than a year, you have that right. You don't have to make people wait a year according to like the state of Wisconsin or Ohio to give them that that benefit. You could just give it to them.
Yeah, and this is just going out to any employer, but specifically you, Ron, you stupid motherfucker. Like, when somebody comes to you with a problem, you don't just fucking dismiss it and get to walk away from it. Sorry, that was a little bit of a side tangent, but fuck you, Ron.
DeSantis.
No,
Oh.
no,
Oh.
but fuck him too
Yeah.
for different reasons. Fuck most politicians.
Well, at least Ron DeSantis is all for right to repair for your Tesla only.
No, he's just for. You're mixing stories up.
Oh yeah, I am. Well, I'm sure he is all for right to repair for your Tesla only because he gets money from Tesla.
Probably.
Just like
You know
Clarence
that-
Thomas
you know that's
gets donations as a Supreme Court justice.
yeah, and his wife is some right-wing radical, like, but he's not biased.
No, he's not.
He can just speak prolifically, right?
So
That's-
yeah, he has that freedom, and I thought she had to do something with the insurrection,
she did
which is crazy.
a little
Like-
bit.
People storming the Capitol.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been this week's episode of Ethica America. I now have a fucking headache thanks to all of y'all.
You're
No,
welcome.
It's been real. Yeah,
Yep.
it's fine. This road trip's just been long, and I feel like when we were driving through, we didn't grab enough water because neither of us really wanted to stop to pee all the time, but we hit a couple roadblocks along the way. So,
Yeah,
especially when the guy took all our money and we couldn't afford water anymore.
I know that was awful.
Yeah, but it's okay because I made money by selling our marijuana stash that we got in Colorado along the way.
Oh, good. And
Yeah.
and I was giving away energy with the
Yeah,
charger
yeah,
in
with-
the back. Oh
Good
wait,
on
that
you,
that
man.
wasn't making any money because I was just giving it away.
We're just doing capitalism the right way, really.
Yeah, we are.
We made it. Are we going to the Liberty Bell now or the Statue of Liberty? Because I was gonna like pee on the Statue of Liberty, but I'd also just piss on the Liberty Bell. I don't really care.
We'll go to where workers' rights were first developed, and that's where we're gonna head now.
Oh, okay. All right. Road
Because
trip.
We've
I
been
like this style.
we've been talking
Pussy
about
button around.
rights and worker rights. So
And I feel like a lot of people don't understand theirs. Like you have the right to refuse unsafe work, as an example, right? And in the past, when I've done that, people tell me, "Oh, stop being so dramatic." Oh no, it's not going to hurt you.
Mhm.
Oh, let's just lift this 500-pound couch up 3 shelves on 3 very sketchy fucking ladders, Ron.
yeah.
And fuck you, Adam, for not saying anything. Fuck you.
Oh geez.
All right. Well, this has been Ethica America this week. I'm Ryan.
I'm Aaron. Bye.